Hey guys, today we got Nick Vance, owner and operator of Fox Cities Embroidery, powered by NVR Branding. Stay tuned for this awesome interview. Hey guys, welcome back. Today we got Nick Vance, good buddy and friend of mine, coming in today to talk about a recent change to his business. And I'm looking forward to today's interview. Are you, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Excellent. So Nick and I have been friends for some time, and because of that friendship, he became a client of ours. And we've done various masterminds and things and talked over the last couple of years. And one of the things that you had always been kind of working towards was growing your business, which started off as NVR and branding, and then you kind of are trying to acquire and grow these other operations. And what I found interesting was this is a great opportunity because we deal with a lot of clients who are going through business transitions. Mm-hmm. And in this case, you were going through a growth transition, right? Growing from just NVR to now acquiring and operating Fox Cities Embroidery, correct?
Right, yeah.
So tell me a little bit, within the last year, basically, right? We're coming up on your year anniversary again. Congratulations.
This month. Thank you.
Surviving COVID.
Yeah,
right,
right in the middle.
How did you decide that a business acquisition was the right path for you in terms of growth, rather than, diving into putting money into other, areas that could maybe grow your business?
It kind of started with just the opportunity presented itself. I've always been a huge believer in surrounding myself with a good team. And so you've always been on that team. And then actually through you, I've been introduced to other people. And so over the years, I've been able to kind of acquire a good, solid team. A team that, for like accountants, lawyers, financial planners, like all of the necessary pieces of the puzzle. It's really important to have them in place. And so it was back in like March of a year ago, year and a half ago, is when my lawyer actually just presented it to me. So I wasn't actively looking, always looking to grow, but I wasn't actively looking at acquiring a company. But it kind of came up, and he said, "Hey, you might want to look into this. Not sure what your plans are," and that's kind of how it all started.
So kind of an unexpected, maybe even uncommon, sort of an opportunity that popped up.
Yeah.
And you kind of then drove down the rabbit hole of considering it.
Right.
And it ended up being a good fit for what you wanted to continue to grow in your business.
Yeah.
Now explain to the audience too a little bit, Nick. What is it that you guys do at Fox Cities Embroidery and NVR Branding?
So I tell my team this. It's interesting because we do apparel. We do a lot of promotional products. We do a lot of events. So do backdrops and tents and all sorts of stuff. Just branding.
Sure.
Anything branding. But I've been in the industry for close to 20 years now, and so my experience has told me that a lot of the people in this industry, they're still very much an old thinking group. It's just old processes still, that kind of stuff. And for me, I've always thought like, okay, we need to improve systems. Sure. We need to make things better.
Yeah, we put crap on shirts and T-shirts for 45, 50 years.
Right. And
what's changed?
What's changed? And so my focus has always been more, well, what can we do internally? How can we improve internally? And so, yes, we do a lot of embroidery and screen printing and heat pressing and, dye sublimation, all that kind of stuff. Yep. And those processes, those don't really change too much. But internally, how are we making things better for our clients? How can we automate systems? How can we make things a lot more efficient for people?
Sure.
And so I even tell my team, we're not an apparel company, we're not a promotional company, we're a tech company.
Sure.
And we just happen to produce branding. apparel. And
What would
things
you
like
say
that.
is your biggest competitive advantage now having acquired Fox Cities Embroidery that you maybe didn't have before?
Yeah. Well, Fox Cities Embroidery was a well-established company in the community, and that had a lot of good things going for them. And so when they had, brought the company to market, I doing my research, I realized that they had more brand recognition, at least on a local level, than MVR branding.
Sure.
And so there was a huge opportunity there. On top of that, over the years, they had acquired quite a few, machines that were pretty critical to have to be able to produce, what you need to be able to produce. We're producing, 1,000+ pieces a day.
Wow.
So, MVR branding, where I stood a year and a half ago, I wouldn't have been able to produce that.
Sure.
Not on my own, and so acquiring Fox Cities Embroidery definitely put me in the driver's seat to have a lot more control, bring a lot more things in-house, rather than using, relationships, which relationships is great, but when you can bring things in-house and you can still have the control and the quality, that's a huge advantage.
Cool. So shifting gears a second, walk me through the timeline of when the deal was presented to you as an opportunity for growth, and what were the steps that kind of took place that led up to your September close, which
Yeah.
you just snuck in under the SBA program deadline.
Right. Yeah. We did sneak it in.
Literally like the Saturday
It
before,
was
right?
not even before. It was the Saturday.
The
Yeah.
Saturday of
We
the
actually.
deadline.
Yeah, that's an interesting story in and of
Yeah.
itself, how that worked, because I had given up hope. But it started. I can't remember exactly when I got my email from my lawyer buddy, but I think Mike emailed me either the end of February or beginning of March, like
Okay.
sometime in that, somewhere in that time frame. And I just saw it and I was like, oh, I've never done something like that. That's pretty significant. I said, well, how do I start? And he's like, you just got to sign an NDA. They'll send some paperwork over. And so I said, all right, send it over. And I think that same day I actually when I got numbers, I actually sent it over to you. And I wasn't trying to monopolize your time, but I was just like, again, it's team. So
Yeah.
I sent it over to you and I'm like, hey man, you look at numbers all the time. What do you see when you see this from because I'm going to look at it from a very different perspective. I'm looking at it from the business perspective, but there's going to be for sure emotional thinking behind it. Like, okay, well, what's, all this kind of stuff where you can be a lot more objective about it
Sure.
and just kind of look at it for what it is. And so right away I was already, using you, back in March or when it was, just kind of going over the numbers and looking at, okay, how does this work, and how do these numbers add up? Is it positive? Is it negative? All those kind of things.
Right. Sort of, we went through that process of doing a hypothetical evaluation,
Yeah.
right? And going, okay, they're asking for X, right? And it's valued based on the financials at X,
Right.
right? And does that match up, or do you have some negotiating leeway to come back to the table and make offers?
Yeah.
So I think that was actually, you're right. I had a lot of conversations with you on that, and
Yeah.
and what your approach would be in terms of how to structure that purchase.
Yeah.
And I remember we had a bit of a snafu with the business plan side of it,
Oh, yeah.
right? And creating that in order to get the SBA lending.
That's critical.
What was that process like for you?
There's a lot of work. It's so much more work than I anticipated.
Yeah.
And so buying a business, it's a big step. It's, when you add up everything you think it's going to be and then multiply it by 10, and that's about what it really was
From a work standpoint.
from a work
yeah.
standpoint. And I had to not get tired of looking at numbers. Like I had to just dive very, very deep into the numbers. I had to do all of the research on like kind of the local area. Again, Fox Cities Embroidery. It's in the name. It's very to a degree, it's almost pigeonholed a little bit. Fox Cities Embroidery. I mean, so
The Fox Cities of the
Fox
area.
Cities
Yeah.
plus what I do, embroidery. So there's things like that, and you have to look at, okay, well, what are the effects of this? What's the influence of the owner? How influential is the owner in the success of the business? Can the business be successful if you take the current owner out?
Sure.
Or is the business only successful really because of the owner? And if I come in, it's almost like everything dries up. So there's a lot of questions that I had,
Well, and especially you had the unique challenge of a COVID lockdown,
Yeah.
right? Like March, you get shut down. Here, by the way, here's a deal. You can maybe
Right.
buy this business.
Right.
And they're shut down. They were doing some work, but it
yeah.
totally disrupted the normal flow of sales and
Right.
everything else.
Yeah, I mean, from a negotiation standpoint, it helps me to a degree because
Sure.
I could kind of say, look, there's so much going on here, I don't know what to do. But
Because you do a lot of work with schools and their embroidery for all the
Lots-
sports teams, and I
Right.
remember us talking about a big question whether or not
well,
we're going to have any football or
Right.
baseball
and
or anything.
that was shut down last year. That was an aspect of business that was lost. And so, yeah, I mean, we had started the talks of the negotiations or very beginning phases back in March or pre-shutdown, and then the shutdown happened. And for me, for me, I was like, look, I got to keep going. I wasn't a retail shop or anything like that, so I didn't necessarily have any area that I needed to shut down. At the time, for NVR branding, it really was just me and two other people. I did have to, two people were let go because of COVID, and that was hard. That was hard because I was looking at growing, and we were in a position of growing, and then all of a sudden that happened. And then in the middle of that, I'm looking at buying a business, and I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Like, do I really want to do this? So I actually stopped it. I was not going to buy the business in the middle of a pandemic. But things turned and things changed, I guess, so
You found hope again.
yeah, I guess I found hope again.
Was there anything through the process of buying this business that you wish would have gone differently, or in hindsight you would have thought differently about?
Well, COVID for sure.
Yeah,
It would have
right.
been nice to not have that. There are times where, I mean, you just get tired of looking at the numbers and doing the research. It does make for an exhausting day, but it's really hard for me to say I wish this didn't happen or anything like that, because that's what molded me and created the situation. And so I can't really say I regret anything.
Sure.
Definitely hard times and moments, and plenty of mistakes that I made. But I tried to make the mistakes early, if that makes sense. So my goal was to just dive in and make mistakes early before I started making bigger financial costly mistakes.
Blunders later. Sure.
Right.
So shifting gears, now that you've already bought this business, and now, like I said, coming up on your 1-year anniversary here at the end of the month, how has your sort of post-COVID shutdown, right, into this fall and past fall and through the spring now into the end of this year, how has that been for your business? We have a lot of different clients, as you know, business owners that are impacted all differently because of COVID and the shutdowns. How has your business fared now that not only is it brand new to you, but
Right.
From the sense of having a new space and more production team and all that, but what would you say, if you had to look back on the last 12 months, has been your success with the business?
Well, it's great that we've grown. We've grown significantly, and that's been great. Bringing in new clients, landing new clients. Systems, we've made significant improvements to the systems internally, and that's been a big focus of mine from the very get-go, is improving systematically internally. How can we improve internally to be able to produce, for our clients? And although they might not see it, internally it's so much better. It's more streamlined. It's more efficient. It's less stress on the team. When I bought the business, we had around 6 to 7 full-time employees, and now we have 12 full-time employees.
Wow.
It's been a struggle. I still have several new hires that I am looking to make, and it's just different. It just in a year, even, it's changed. Trying to find people and hire people.
Would you say that's your number one challenge so far, has been hiring good people?
Yeah, that's always a tough one. We're still building the system, and that's a big, big challenge. It just is a lot of work. And so I guess I don't necessarily have the benefit of already having a system in place where it's just use the system per
turnkey,
se.
here you go, everything's
Right.
buttoned up.
Right. Those things we're building. We're still building, and we're doing a lot of pivoting, as we say, you just, does this work? Nope. Okay. Pivot, change, things like that. We're doing a lot of that, and finding what's going to work. And we've got, the foundation is there, but we're still building the system. That, I would say, that's the number one, and that's the most critical, most important thing that we're focused on right now.
Sure.
But yes, hiring good quality people, that's changed. I mean, it's
And what
changed
are
a
you
lot.
doing? I was talking to another business owner friend of mine who he basically said, "Look, you can't put an ad in the paper these days with the amount of work that's available out there. It's not going to get seen. It's not.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant as soon as you put it in the paper."
Yeah.
How are you advertising or getting the names, so to speak, to get good qualified people into your business?
I mean, we do. I mean, we'll post on online platforms, social media. Internally, we're, like, we talk about it, and we're
Kind of recruiting from the network of people internally.
from our team. Like, hey, who do you know? That kind of thing. Those are kind of the main forums, outlets that we've been using and we've
Sure.
been following. And we've recently had 2 really good hires. We've had two really good hires, and we're excited for that. But you just need more,
Right.
So it's like, okay, we got to keep looking.
Keep asking, right?
Yeah, keep asking. Yeah.
So the real question is, would you do it all over again at the end of this year? We're a year in now. Would you do it all over again?
I think I would. I've
Yeah.
always been. I mean, you know me. I've always been like a big risk taker. Like, I'll go for a grand slam and a home run all the time. If I see an opportunity,
Sure.
I basically, the way I look at it is, how much control am I going to have if I take this opportunity, and if I can maintain most of the control, I'm going after it. If like, I'm not a gambler per se. I'm not gonna go and
Throw all your money on red?
right. I'm not gonna throw my money on red or something because I don't have any control there. But buying a business, I'm like, well, hang on a second. I trust myself. I trust my experience. I trust my knowledge. My know-how, my work drive, that kind of stuff. I trust. So I'm willing to go all in on that. And so I would. I'm sure I would do it again. And people have asked me, like, well, are you done buying companies? Like, no, not necessarily.
I was just going to say, do you see further acquisitions now that you've kind of already got one done, and you know the process and some of the work behind it and everything? Now, would you say in the future it's easier for you to continue to pursue acquisition as a means to growth, or would you say you feel like you're done acquiring stuff now, and it's more, I'm just going to focus on good organic growth with hiring more salespeople, or kind of speak to that?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
as much as you can eat.
Yeah, I want to grow. I believe in myself, and uh, I know we already are growing organically. But if there's an opportunity, like I said earlier, like by acquiring Fox Cities Embroidery, I was able to acquire a lot of the machinery and a lot of those
Sure.
things. There's other things that we don't necessarily have in house, so I don't necessarily. It's not just as simple as buying a machine either.
Right.
A lot of these machines, it's like an art form. You you need the people to be able to know how to use them.
So, Nick, in closing, I just have one last question for you. And that is to all of our folks listening that are looking to maybe acquire a business for their own growth plan, or just a first time, franchisee owner, or however you spin it. What's one point of advice that you learned through this process and your path to growth that
Yeah.
you could tell someone that's looking to do the same thing?
Well, I mean, I could say a lot of things. It's really easy to just get tired of all the due diligence, and there's a ton of due diligence. I mean, Fox Cities Embroidery, it's not like it was a behemoth. It wasn't like a, 10, 20, 30, $40 million company or acquisition. That's not what it was. It was still significant, and especially for me, it was significant.
Yeah.
And it's easy to kind of just get tired of all that due diligence. But I would say the number one piece of advice that I would share is you have to surround yourself with the right people, with the right team. I couldn't have bought it. I couldn't have gone through the acquisition without Mike, my lawyer, without you, without my accounting firm, without these people, and then just friends. Like it was even good, like because we would talk outside of, not from
The business end,
not
or
from the
just
business end, but then we'd actually talk, personally, and
Mhm.
just like talk about things. Even that from like even having good friends. But if you don't have a team of professionals that actually know their stuff,
Sure.
you're in trouble. And I do not recommend you go down that road. You gotta have professionals that know their stuff, and so that was my road. I'm very grateful I had that team. And sometimes you have the team and you don't even know you have the team, but I yeah, it was really good to have that team with Mike, with you, and using my accounting firm, when I needed it, because there's a lot of sound advice, and the negotiation process changed a lot
Right.
because of the advice that I was getting and the information that I was seeing, and you coming in and saying, well, have you looked at it from this perspective? Have you thought about
Right.
this? That really changed the negotiation pieces. And so can't do it without a team.
Awesome. Great advice. Well, thank you, Nick, for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thank you, audience. Stay tuned for future interviews, and I look forward to seeing you all in the upcoming videos. Thanks, Nick.
All right. Thanks, Brad.